Okay, here we go. Je suis Charlie. We're going to talk about Charlie. Charlie v. Charlie. How you doing?
Good. I got a cold, but I'm doing good.
You're doing good. Okay, and you are?
I'm Charles Murray. I'm the Ombudsman for the province of New Brunswick.
You're filling in pretty big shoes here. We're at Molly's, and I always have my interview here with Brian Gallant.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Am I sitting in the same seat?
He was there, then
Okay.
he went over there, and
All right.
then he went outside. I've never been in his office yet, but anyway, I'd rather be here. Molly's, Queen Street, anybody
Yeah.
wants to know. Okay, now you asked me what we're going to talk about. The light behind, but that's okay. You asked me what we're going to talk about. I said, you'll find out when we start this.
Right.
Okay, let's talk about workers' compensation.
Mm.
Now, it's a blog. You came out with some recommendation.
Yeah.
You got a shit kicking.
I guess that's one way of describing it.
Yeah, so
Well, some people weren't in agreement with what I said. Some people were unhappy with what I said, but that's okay. That's the gig. If there's some kicking involved in this job, that's fine. I knew that when I took it on.
and there were only recommendations.
Right. Our office only makes recommendations. We can't order anything, which is
Useless,
why...
what, 90%?
Well,
90?
are we at 90 already? Oh, when we started it was 99. I thought I had it down to 97.
Okay.
Are we already jumping to 90?
Yeah, pretty good.
Wow, okay, 90. Look, my day's made now. But what we can do is we make recommendations, and the government either follows the recommendations or not. And right now, government's in the process of studying this and saying, how should we maybe change our work-safe legislation, workers' compensation system? So since they asked and they had a committee, I showed up and said, here's how we think you should change it.
And what did you... We can't go long-winded.
No.
What's the main problem?
I said the central issue to me is that the present organization regards itself as an insurance company, and it's trying to, as one of its goals, to keep premiums for business low. And I feel that on balance, that's causing it to be unfair to the injured worker. We should be focusing on protecting the injured worker, and of course we don't want to waste money or allow fraud, but we don't need to balance that against trying to make business rates low. In the same way, if I said to you, what's the goal of the school system? Well, the goal of the school system is surely to educate our kids. It's not to educate our kids and balance that against making sure that the businesses don't pay too much tax. Keep focused on what your central goal is. And I think the central goal of WorkSafe needs to be shifted to better protect workers.
Are the Irvings too much involved in this?
I don't have any evidence that it's specifically about the Irvings. I think the present system works very well for business. I think it gives them security, it gives them predictability in terms of their premiums, and I think it lets them control their costs and protect their reputation. And all those things are fine things, just I think it goes too far. It does those things at the expense of the worker, and I think that's where it misses the goal.
You can appeal it, you appear in front of a board, and the board, if they say, okay, you weren't treated fairly, you still don't get the result you're supposed. Like my cousin,
right.
Same thing.
Historically, they haven't taken the recommendations of the board. So they might make a change in one case, but if the next case comes along, they wouldn't say, well, we had a case just like that, we probably should decide it the same way. They make everybody go through the same process. And that makes that process very long and very costly and very difficult for the worker, who's often in a very tough situation. They may be on medication, they may have their mobility limited, they may have mental health issues, all those things. So the government has changed that system. Those changes are new. We're going to take some time to see if they work, but there needs to be a change there, which they've started to make.
Do you see workers' compensation change their policies? It's like their job is to cut costs and to give you such a hard, like I said earlier, my cousin, her husband was injured in the late 80s, and I seen it my own self, like this, okay, you got something, like you said, fraud, you get cases, I got a bad back, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not true, or you could have a car accident,
right.
Whiplash,
Sure.
But this legitimate case, and it's so sad. The guy was prescribed, one of the first guy to be prescribed painkillers, oxycontin.
Oh yeah.
One of the first, and he got addicted. You know what
Right.
happens
Sure.
there.
They're very
So, do they need some kind of true independent body to really investigate these cases?
I think government knows there's an issue there, and they're bumping up what they call the workers' advocates within the system. It's going to take time, but I think it needs to be a pretty fundamental shift inside. What I said to the committee is, I don't think you can fix this with a new coat of paint or with a little bit of tinkering. I think you need to really drill right down to what its central mission is and refocus that mission. But I don't know about the specific case. I can't really speak about specific cases, but I certainly know what our office hears quite regularly from injured workers is that the process is long, it's difficult, that when there's any kind of a disagreement between doctors, it always seems to be resolved against covering, this kind of thing. And I just think over the long term, we are missing our duty to the injured workers to provide fairness. That's my thought.
Somebody told me that they cleared $1.4 billion.
That wouldn't surprise me because, the fund always has a goal of having a long-term reserve in case there's a series of big injuries. They have to be prepared for that. But one of the issues you see sometimes is the fund becomes a goal in and of itself. And when somebody proposes a change, they say, well, we got to protect the fund, as if the goal of the corporation is to accumulate a lot of money. I'm given a budget every year. I have to work within that budget. That's understood. I have to be responsible with that. But it's not my goal as an office to use as little of my budget as possible. My goal as an office is to provide the services. I want to control my costs. But to some degree, in all workers' compensation systems, there's this temptation to get focused on, well, how strong is the fund? That's something that's easy to measure, right? You can say, the fund has got this many dollars and this many cents in it. When you say, well, how about fairness to workers? Well, how do you measure that? It's much more difficult to put that on a graph. So this is the danger of governments in a time of restraint, not just in workers' comp, everywhere. When governments get focused on the economic bottom line, that's something easy to measure. But service, fairness, that's hard to measure. And it's tempting sometimes to cut corners to hit the bottom line economically and miss the real target.
Listen, we're not good for names today. We're getting old. What was that guy's name again? With McKenna that bought the desktop, his desk, workers' compensation, the CEO. Remember that? Yeah, I got you again. It's a funny name. I think it starts by R.
Gosh, I have
Remember
a dim
that?
memory of what you're talking about, but I can't remember the name.
That's all right.
He was like, there was an auction and he bought it at an auction?
I think so.
Yeah.
He was anyway. There was a big uproar that he had his office, new furniture. And
Oh,
everything.
he sort of, yeah, okay. I really can't
That's
remember
okay.
that. Yeah.
Listen, you guys do complaints on the justice system?
Do complaints on everything that touches on provincial government, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
We get thousands every year.
good. Well, I'll set up a meeting and we're going to talk about justice.
We'll talk.
Thank you.